Hi, Ben couldn't be here for this commentary, so... yeah, right. Ben here from the archive, the very, very noisy archive, unfortunately, today. So if you hear some construction noises and crap going on outside, there's two seasons in Colorado, winter and construction, and I think most of America's like that. But anyway, this is the second episode of the third season of Archive and the 54th regular episode overall. This has been going on for a while, hasn't it? And this opening, of course, is just a little dig at the intro to Treasure in Search of the Golden Horse. And this is also one of the longest archive episodes at, what is this, 35, 36 minutes? So I don't think I have 36 minutes worth of things to say about it, but I'll say my piece on it, and whatever happens, happens. But this episode, it wasn't meant really to be a personal thing. It wasn't really meant to be loosely autobiographical, but it just kind of happened as so it's want to happen. It happens quite a bit apparently with me. But oh geez, this episode, well, let me jump back for a second here. The second season of Archive, I just kind of got my head really far up my ass most of that season. And with my making archive and with working outside of the archive and stuff, and just kind of losing track of what's going on around me. And so in the last few episodes of the season, I found myself starting to come out of it, and largely just because I was getting kind of tired. I was just putting in 70 hours a week or something between making archive and doing odd jobs and stuff, and so there was that going on. But then I come out of it and I'm tired, and I'm just kind of watching my own numbers, and archive has gotten some traction, don't get me wrong, and it's very nice to have, but it's never really taken off, at least as of my recording this. I mean, here I go trying to be Mr. Future fortune teller guy again. But it kind of threw me into a bit of an existential crisis. It got me on, why am I doing this? What is the point of this? Why am I kind of just running myself into the ground doing this? And then it just worked out that, well, before even that, I come out of it, and, all of a sudden, all my friends are all getting married within a span of 6 weeks, relatives, and, then I've got family in the hospital, and it kind of adds up in your mind. And so when I finally started work on the second season with the Umatic episode, it was just kind of trying to back off a bit. I'd been playing with that VCR for a month at least, and just kind of doing my findings on it, kind of like how I did with the 8-track episode. But to really properly kick off the season, I wanted something that would break some kind of new ground, but also still be truly, I guess, archive, stereotypically archive. And here's where the audience comes in. I do read your suggestions, and indeed this episode was suggested by a viewer, and it was something that I never would have thought of in a million years, but somebody came to me with the idea of this little mini trend of treasure hunt videos, and this movie here, $1 Million Mystery, which I have seen. It's just as I say in the episode, it's kind of a poor man's It's a Mad, 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 Mad World. But if you're looking for kind of a mindless Saturday matinee sort of thing, give it a shot. But anyway, going way off point, this idea came from a viewer, and I never would have thought of it. And I just got to say that literally about half the episodes that I do of Archive are from ideas that have been thrown at me by viewers. So, don't feel discouraged about the worst I can do is not do it. So don't take it personally, but it does work, and sometimes it really pays off. Like this, I got the suggestion. I found Treasure on YouTube, Treasure in Search of the Golden Horse. Watched it for a few minutes, and I just stopped and went, "Yeah, I have to do this topic." It just became that immediate.
Mysterious clue.
And so going back to Million Dollar Mystery here, and just looking at the trailer, I noticed a certain Mr. Eddie Deason appears in this movie. And I kind of like the guy. And in the name of full disclosure, I know some people that know him. And so I don't want it to sound like a conflict of interest here. But I saw him in the movie, and it just seemed so perfect. And getting back to my own little existential crisis, I figured, if any good can come out of this, it's going to have to be by my own hand, and it's going to have to be by me basically just mocking my own state of being. Maybe that sounds a little insensitive, but it seemed like the smart thing to do. And so I figured I'd do a Dickensian thing, a Christmas Carol. You got the ghost of Christmas past, present, and future. And so I figured, well, hell, why don't I just get haunted by Eddie Deason? And of course I can play with the whole life and death thing, because he's not dead. The guy's alive and well, as of my recording this, as of August 2014. So I went with that, and of course then ambition kicks in, and I'm thinking, maybe I can actually get in touch with him. I know it's a long shot, but maybe I can actually get him to actually do this. And it just never would have happened. It just, as soon as I came out of this big forest of personal and professional stuff, I go right into another one. And so I was toying with the idea of trying to get in touch with Eddie, of course, but it became very obvious that it just was not going to happen. Even if by some insane fluke he were to agree to it, making it work scheduling wise on my end just wouldn't happen. So it meant me going and trying to woodshed my best impression of the guy, and of course failing miserably. But I think it kind of worked in its own strange roundabout way, because as fun as it would have been to have had Eddie actually do the voice, I think it kind of works in my own favor, in that I guess maybe it seems a little more ghostly, and it seems something that I guess is just maybe slightly more, I don't have a better word for it, stereotypically archive. So let's talk about Money Hunt here for a few minutes. This really caught my interest in that it got me thinking about kind of the history of home video, and this was 1984, and looking at it from my perspective of somebody who just wasn't quite there yet, it was just like 5 minutes before my time. But to me, it's just fascinating watching this new industry happening, and watching people just basically throw ideas to the proverbial wall and seeing what sticks. And there was a trend in the late 70s, early 80s that I mentioned in the episode here on treasure hunt books. And then, of course, the logical progression of that, of course, would be videos. And so here it is, 1984. Home video is just, in all reality, entering the mainstream. It's becoming less of a geek thing and more of just an everyday thing. And in some circles, yeah, it was still a couple of years off. But just watching this happen, and watching a video that probably cost, I'd imagine, $20, $25, maybe even $30 at the time, from a company saying, here, you can win all this money from this contest, but this video is only going to be good for about 3 months. And so I think I guess it was a bit cynical on their part, because the way I read it was, we know that this is a new thing, we know that we're kind of at the vanguard of this, but also maybe we can just get a buttload of video sales and have nobody solve this puzzle, because I really can't figure out myself, not that I've spent a whole ton of time with it, but I haven't seen, I guess, a thread for the handful of times that I've seen Money Hunt now of where the treasure would be, or I guess it was a slip of paper or something, I guess. So it also piqued my interest in that I thought it was maybe just a little bit of a scam here. And of course, you've got the kind of dated element to it here. You've got the guy who, John Hillerman, who played Higgins on Magnum PI, hosting this video, and you've got the police chief from Beverly Hills Cop playing detective. What was his name? Cash Hunt PI in there. So it was a funny little bit of non-nostalgia, a peek into a different era.
The box where we have hidden the 100.
So I've been asked a couple of times now, even though I say it in the episode here, I guess a lot of people thought maybe it was just a plot point or one of my little jokes, but as far as I know, there was no true winner to this contest. I really looked into this, and the best that I could find was just strictly an anecdote on IMDb from somebody who claimed to have been, really into the video and looking for it, and finding at the last second that they called the phone number that they were supposed to find, and failed at the last second, and then saying that hearing through the grapevine that somebody at Carl Lormar Home Videos, sister-in-law or something, got the money. And it sounds reasonably plausible, but I have no way of confirming it.
What are you doing there?
So jumping forward a bit here, going into Treasure in Search of the Golden Horse, like I mentioned, when I first saw it, I knew pretty quickly that this was something I wanted to do. But as I was watching it, it was, I felt it was kind of overreaching, and that it was getting lost in its own ambition. And so I obviously, for that reason, wanted to throw it into the pot, so to speak. And I remember that, of course, it caught my interest enough that I knew I actually had to find a copy of this thing, preferably on Laserdisc. And I actually bit the bullet and found a used copy. I didn't spend too much on it, but more than I'm used to for doing archive, because so much of archive is stuff that I find at the thrift store and I'm not paying more than like a buck and a half for. But in this case, it's me dropping $12, $13 on a Laserdisc, and then Money Hunt wasn't too bad. I think I picked it up for about $5 altogether. So I knew it was going to be kind of an expensive episode of Archive by Archive standards to make. But it was, again, one of those things that I just believed in enough that I had to do it. And so I got the Laserdisc, and I thought I would get two birds with one stone. I took out my transfer unit that I usually use, and I figured I would just sit back and watch it like I did with Money Hunt here. This was the first time I saw it when I was taking the transfer. But anyway, I figured that's how I would take my first true pass at this treasure thing. And so here I am. I'm in my chair at the computer and just kind of prepared to watch it and make sure nothing goes wrong in the transfer process. 2 minutes in, I'm finding myself stopping because I have to punch in some code, and I have to jump through these pages of words and stuff. And of course, that when I watch something for archive, I generally like watching it straight through, because I'm one of those people that if I stop too often, I start thinking about other things and I just kind of lose track of it. And so that made Treasure a bit more of a challenge than usual, because you see it in the episode. Of course I built it in. You see that I'm stopping every 2 minutes or so to punch in some stupid code. And so, like I said, obviously I built it into the episode, but it got me thinking about laserdisc technology for a bit instead of the actual video for a while. And I looked a little closer at the front cover, and there's a sticker on there saying that if you're watching this on a Pioneer VP 1000, turn the frame display to on. And I'm kind of just going. A VP 1000 is a fairly early, fairly basic laserdisc unit, but it got me thinking of, when laserdiscs really started coming out in 80, 81, one of the things they were always touting was you could, for some titles, you could go frame by frame, and you could do all sorts of stuff. Some discs you could actually play with the playback speed and slow it down and all that. And so I'm going, the people that made Treasure here have just dumped, I think I read somewhere like $2 or $3 million into the project at the time. So accounting for inflation, double that. And you'd think that if they're going to be this high tech about it, that they'd take a little more advantage of some of this stuff, and B, that they would be, how do you want to put this? How do I want to put this? A bit more fluid and a little less clunky from a filmmaking perspective, because they took all these beautiful shots and they went all over the country and filmed this thing, and they did a really nice job at it. And then they just sabotaged their own work left and right with this really awful, cheesy these effects and stuff. It was just terrible. Research this one as best as possible, and sad. So getting to how this all fits together in the whole episode, obviously I knew that I wanted the whole Dickensian twist to it, but I also knew that just from making too many episodes of Archive, that with all the goofy cryptic pseudo-mystical stuff going on, and the attempts at dropping little hints and red herrings and stuff, that of course I had to build it into the episode. So like you see here on the box below the picture of the dancing bunny, I put an and sign and does not equal. It doesn't mean a damn thing. If you look to the left side of the shot, behind the fan up against that door, is a Postit note, and I don't remember what I wrote on it. It's not significant because I knew nobody would ever be able to read it anyway. If you can zoom in that far, it's just going to be a pixelated mess, even though this was shot in 1080. So, of course, as I said, with all this in mind, that I just had to throw in all this cryptic garbage. I toyed with the idea of trying to throw in some sort of little treasure hunt thing, but it got to the point where I was busy doing other things. It was taking forever to make this episode, and that it just wasn't practical, so I didn't do it. So I just threw every goofy thing I could think of just on the fly. And one thing that amuses me the most about this is at the end of the episode, at the last frame of the credits, instead of Oddity Archive written and hosted by and all that, it says Dancing Bunny. And then below that, I've got, I forget what the name of the fake production company was, but I capitalized certain letters in it. I was looking for words that I could pick out, and ones that you wouldn't have to rearrange the letters on. So I forget what it was, but I remember I was able to pick the words rice prunes out of it. And so the day the episode came out, I've had like 10 people now shooting me emails and stuff trying to figure out what this is, and on the comment page on YouTube, and they're trying to figure out what the heck is this, but nobody got rice prunes. I kept getting people writing like price runes or some garbage, or I got one person who just wrote this wonderfully funny little bit about some word he was able to pick out, and rearranging the letters and just going from this strange, very a long train of thought. That's the best way I can put it. A stretch is probably the best way to put that. And so I had so much fun with it that when I first saw it, I was actually concerned. I think, oh my God, people are really going to try and think there's some great mystery of this, or they think they're going to win something. No, it was pure satire. But I was having so much fun reading it that I just stopped any idea of just coming out on Facebook or something and saying, no, calm down. There is no great mystery here. But I think there's enough time that's passed now. I haven't gotten. Granted, this episode is only a month or so old as of the time of my doing this commentary, but the people that have been trying to figure this out have dried up. So let me just say, there was no contest, there was no prize, there was nothing. It was just me having fun with all this junk. By the way, one of the men who solved the puzzle later Okay, so one last point on this episode before I wind this down. For all the talk about existential crises and stuff, one thing that I was serious about was there had to be a point to the episode. There had to be a point to, even if all this cryptic crap meant nothing, there still had to be a point to it. Otherwise, there'd be no point to it whatsoever, and I didn't want to make anybody sit through 35, 36 minutes of this thing and and come up with nothing. So it took a little bit of soul searching, but I just started going around all my files and stuff, and I found my old folder that's been used partially as a logo for Archive for a while, the manila folder. And I found all those pictures that I was doing the first few episodes of the show, where I'd throw down the folder at the end of the opening, open it, and there'd be a picture of Max Headroom or whatever, and then the name of the episode underneath it. So it got me going with that. And of course, at the very beginning of the episode, during the cold opening, you had all this stuff from previous episodes of Archive lying around. And so I had to just actually step back and just go, so this is why I do it. It's exploration, it's learning, it's even if I come up empty on this little journey, maybe that's the whole point of it. And so I decided, a cliche that it is, to just make the bottom line of the episode, the journey is its own reward. So, stupid, I know, but there you go. And I'm going to end it here. Ben, from the Archive, thank you for sitting here and listening to me just ramble for 23 minutes. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'll see you again soon. Everything yourself. Oh, where's my remote? Play.